All right, let's get into it. We talk a lot about brand loyalty, about loving a brand. But what about the flip side? What happens when that love turns to hate? When a brand you trusted completely lets you down and you just turn against it? Well, it turns out that feeling isn't just you being grumpy. There's a whole science to it, a real psychological drama playing out. I mean, we've all been there, right? Maybe it was some truly awful customer service, or a product that just spectacularly failed on you. Or maybe you read something about the company that just didn't sit right. That feeling, that powerful urge to say, nope, never again, is what we're talking about. And it's a feeling that's getting more and more important.
That's right. This isn't just random. Consumer psychologists are actually studying this, looking at the bond between a person and a brand like any other relationship. And just like our personal relationships, these things can get messy. They can fracture, they can sour, and they can end in a really dramatic fashion. We're not just talking about being a little unhappy, we're talking about a whole spectrum of negativity that has very real consequences.
So, how does a brand relationship actually fall apart? Well, it's rarely like flipping a switch. Think of it more like a ladder you climb down, starting with just a little bit of annoyance and going all the way to, well, real animosity. And understanding these steps is absolutely key to understanding the modern consumer. Okay, so step one is what we call brand detachment. This is the quiet start. It's that cooling off period where the emotional connection you had just kind of fizzles out. You're not mad, not yet anyway, but the bond is definitely weaker. You start to feel this psychological distance, and that brand just isn't top of mind anymore. It's the slow, quiet beginning of the end. So after that quiet fading, things get a little more active. This is brand rejection. If detachment was passive, this is a conscious decision. You are now actively, deliberately kicking that brand off your shopping list. You see it on the shelf and you make the choice. Nope, not for me. You've basically moved it from your mental maybe pile straight into the trash.
And finally, you get to the big one, brand hate. This is way beyond simple rejection. This is an intense, powerful, negative feeling. I mean, we're talking about an emotion that's strong enough to actually make you do something, to go online and write that scathing review, to tell everyone you know to stay away, or even to join an organized boycott. It's a serious force to be reckoned with.
So you gotta ask, right? What pushes us over the edge? What takes us from a happy customer to a brand hater? The answers are usually deeply personal, and they often boil down to who we are and what we stand for. It's almost never just about a faulty product. Researchers have found it really comes down to three main things. First, there's identity avoidance. You look at a brand's image and just think, that is so not me. Then there's moral avoidance. You find out a company does things that go against your values, and it just feels wrong to give them your money. And finally, you've got ideological opposition, where a brand's stance on something, or even its country of origin, clashes with your core beliefs. This quote really hits the nail on the head. It's about this idea called symbolic consumption. Basically, we don't just buy stuff for what it does. We buy it for what it says about us. Our purchases are a way we express ourselves, so we instinctively keep our distance from brands that might confuse that message or send the wrong signal about who we are. And this brings us to what's called symbolic incongruence, a fancy term for a simple idea. On one side, you've got your own self-image, your style, your values, the person you want to be. And on the other, you've got the brand's image. When that brand starts to represent something you actively don't want to be, what some call an undesired self, you push it away hard to protect your own sense of who you are. But look, it's not always some big, deep identity crisis. The reasons we can turn against a brand are all over the map. It could be about their environmental record. It could be a conflict with your religious beliefs. It might even be a simple feeling of national pride. And let's be honest, sometimes it really does just start with a product that was a total piece of junk. Now, one unhappy customer has always been bad for business, but the internet and social media in particular has completely changed the game. It's handed every single one of us a potential megaphone, a way to turn one person's bad day into a massive public relations nightmare. Think about it this way. It used to be that companies told their own story. It was controlled, positive, and basically a one-way street. But now they have to compete with our stories. And our stories are dynamic, they're uncontrollable, they can be super negative, and they spread like wildfire through our social networks. The brand is no longer the sole author of its story, not by a long shot. And the technology that made this all possible? Web 2.0. All of a sudden, the internet wasn't just a place for companies to broadcast at us. It became a space for us to talk to each other, to share, to organize. And that shift has changed the balance of power for good.
So what does this actually look like? It often follows a pretty clear path. It starts with one person's individual gripe. They post about it online. Then the network takes over. Other people see it, they share it, they add their own bad experiences. Next thing you know, a whole anti-brand community has formed. And in the most serious cases, that can snowball into collective action, a full-blown, coordinated boycott organized entirely online.
When you step back and look at all this, it points to one huge conclusion. The power dynamic has been completely flipped on its head. The old rules of the marketplace just don't apply in the same way anymore. The consumer is striking back. And this brings us to the consumer's ultimate weapon, the boycott. The official definition says it all. It's an organized attempt to hit a company where it hurts by getting a whole lot of people to stop buying their stuff. It's the consumer base realizing its own strength and flexing its collective muscle to demand change. But, deciding whether to actually join a boycott is a big deal. We all do a quick mental calculation. We think about social pressure. Are our friends doing it? We check if it aligns with our own personal values. We consider the cost. How hard is it really to find an alternative? And maybe most importantly, we ask ourselves, do we trust the people who are organizing this whole thing? So, when you put it all together, the big takeaway is this. We're not just a passive audience anymore. The days of just sitting back and accepting what brands tell us are over. In this digital world, we are active co-creators of a brand's reputation and its public story. And that really leaves us with one final, very important question. In this new era, where a single story of betrayal can go viral in a heartbeat, where hate can be organized into action, what is the real cost for a company that loses our trust? Whatever the number is, you can be sure it's never been higher.